Hello class, in this video we are going to work with making the trunk and the branches of the tree. So this object is behind the leaves, which I've showed in various videos how to go through step by step to sort of get the leaf top. Now we're going to do the trunk. I have to say the trunk isn't necessarily the favorite part of this tree. I've spent a lot more time sort of developing the leaves and getting that all worked out. So feel free to experiment and try something else, but the trees usually fade to the background, and oftentimes if I'm using it in Photoshop or something like that, I might just use some other method to get a good trunk anyway. But we're going to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. And just like leaves, I talked a little bit about fractals, and again, this is not a geometry lesson, but we know a tree is basically, you have a big element, which is the trunk, and then you have major branches and you have minor twigs coming off of that, and it's basically all the same shape that repeats at smaller and smaller scale. So the way I made this tree is it's actually a part of pieces. So if I just copy this over so we can see how it was done, I'll show you how I made it basically. But this is one component, and I just used this thing multiple times at multiple scales at different parts of the object. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush tool, which is here, just because it's going to help me make slightly curvies. I'm going to make sure that my brush is set to basic and not the leafy thing. And I'm going to select this light brown color, which I just had already eyedropped, or just by selecting it, I already had it. So I'm going to make it the stroke color. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tool and sort of go up a little bit. Whoops, I did a bad job there. Oh, I thought I went to basic. I must have undid something there. So let me go back to basic tool, and my mouse hit an object on my desk. That's why I had the weird shape. But basically, I draw a straight line just with a little bit of curve to it. Oh, I went back to that. Why is it doing that? Anyway, I'll select that line. I'll hit basic, and there we go. Maybe it's a little curvy. You can fix it as needed. I think it'll be fine for this demonstration. You can see the one that I actually used in my final. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first give this line a little bit of thickness. I'm not sure exactly what I used, but I'm going to guesstimate about 5 on that pattern. And so right now we can see it's all the same thickness. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my advanced line features, and if you don't see them, you might have to go to this button here, and it'll say show options. That's if you only get this top little part. So if I hide options, that's what you're seeing. If you see only that, just go to show options, you get all of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to profile, and I'm going to select this triangle one. And you can see now it's wider on the top and skinnier at the bottom. Or sorry, that was backwards. It's skinnier at the top and wider on the bottom. And I sort of got this shape. And you can play with things. You can actually do your own ways of doing this, which it looks like maybe I did a little bit. I'm not so sure. I'll come back and fix that. But maybe it needs to be a little wider. So I'm going to try 6 point here. And there we go. And I just took the pen tool and kept doing the same thing. So I sort of sketched a leaf out that way. I don't know, it keeps defaulting to this one. I got to go to basic. Basic, there we go. And what I can do is I can use a graphic style temporarily for this. So I can drop this graphic style in. I can apply this graphic style to it. Now obviously this needs to be thinner, so what I'll do is I'll just go to my line weight and drop it down a line weight or two and sort of move it, rotate it into place as needed. Alright, so I'll do that. And I basically just did the same thing. Actually, this is just a smaller piece of that, I think, already, but I can sketch this out, this way. I'm going to go to my graphic style, keeps going back to that leaf pattern, going to have it selected. There we go, and drop down the line weight even further, right, to make something like that, and so on and so forth. And so you can keep doing that to get these sort of extra pieces on it, just like that. Now, if you want to widen the trunk a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my width tool, which is going to be this one right here, the width tool here. I'm going to select on this, and I can come up to the top of this line, and I can pull this wide. You can see as I pull it, I'm sort of creating a custom profile. Of course, the top still wants to be skinnier than the bottom, so I just want to ever so slightly make it bigger, and so it doesn't quite come to the point that it did before, just like that. All right, so you can come in and you can add the rest of these sketches just to save time. I'm not going to add those little branches. And then what I did is once I had, well, actually, maybe I will. Okay, sorry, changed my mind, because what I did is, we can see this is no longer line work. This is now a shape with a fill. This is a line, and I should show you how I did that as well. What I did is I made sure that my objects completely touched, at least in some way, just like this, and this one is touching a little bit, but I could make it touch more just by stretching it out. I could come up and sort of continue to paint this one up here. Graphic style, I'll get the set. Change the line thickness down to something pretty small now, maybe even down to 1, and you can go down to less than 1 point as well. I'm going to use that. If you want to add this little one, go ahead. It might help with your details. Certainly might help. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these. I'm going to go to Object. I'm going to go to Expand Appearance. And we can see it's turned them all from a line into a fill of that shape. And then what I did is I went to Window, and I went to Pathfinder to join them all together. So let's see, where's Pathfinder? Down here, and I went to Join, and that sort of makes them one object. And then, so that sort of, this is how you create this one piece. And then again, to make it sort of more full of a set of branches, what I did is I just took this one piece, and I took it, I scaled it down a lot, or rotated it as I'm sort of doing there. Scaled it down, and I put it on here, and there's a branch over there. And then I took it, copied it, rotated it a little bit, scaled it even smaller, and I put it there, and so on and so forth. And so I went around the tree until I sort of had the branches as I want to sort of fill up in this shape. And then what I did is, if you look closely on the final one, there's some texture here, and I just used a little bit of grain pattern. So once you're done, obviously I'm not done, make it look sort of like this. Once I'm done, I went to Effects, I went to Texture, and I went to Grain. And the one that I used here is I actually went down, I changed this from regular to vertical. And so you sort of get almost like a bark pattern there, and you can play with these tools to sort of adjust it the way you want. Also add some darks and highlights. It's not perfect. I'm sure you could spend time playing around with this and getting it even better. But once that was made, I think just for simplicity's sake to group these all together, I just grouped them together, and I put them over to my tree, and in my case I just arranged them to the back. And when you do that, you have your branches on your tree, right? And so again, this is the final tree that I had originally created. It's got a little more branches. I probably spent a little more time than I did in the videos getting the texture colors and things just right. But that's basically how you make a tree. I still want to have one more video, which is how you use the tree, especially in this Illustrator file, because there's various things you can do to edit the colors, the shapes, and all these things that are really easy now because of the way we set this up. So I'll follow through with that one last video there.